Well, good evening. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Kathryn Thorpe. I work for the Animal Welfare League, and I have for the last 15 years. That sounds like an awfully long time. I'm responsible for all of the education programs that we run, but obviously tonight we're here for something completely different. Hopefully to learn a little bit more about our dogs and our relationship with our dogs, and also how to prevent biting. Let's get into the nuts and bolts. Things have changed quite dramatically when it comes to the penalties for dog attacks and dog bites. As you can see, new laws have been introduced where the penalties have been increased for dogs not under effective control, which clearly means on a leash. A lot of people have had a misconception or misunderstanding, believing that if I can tell my dog to stop and he's off leash, that means I have effective control of him. Effective control means on a leash. We can now see possible jail time for owners of owned dogs that cause death or maim another animal or person, so we need to be really mindful of that, with up to 3 years jail time or fines up to $112,000, which is an awful amount of money. So far this year we've had, or I should say for last financial year, we've had 706 dog attacks on the Gold Coast, and that's just one city. It's pretty horrific and it's pretty frightening, and it's a year-on-year incremental increase. So things have got to change. We've got to make assurities of our dogs' safety, but also our own. When we're out and about in public with our dogs, we are required to ensure that all of our dogs living on the Gold Coast are registered, and they should clearly be wearing their registration tag on their collar at all times, particularly when out in public. Please don't take your dog to a dog off-leash area or dog park beach if your dog is not completely 100% socially well adjusted. I think a lot of people make a mistake that think all dogs need to be friendly with all dogs, and they don't. Dogs are just like us. We are individuals, we have our own personal dislikes and likes, and dogs are pretty much the same. So if your dog is not 100% well socialized, don't take it to a dog park. They don't have to go there. We can enrich our dogs' lives without necessarily going to dog parks. If there are attacks, as you can see that the Gold Coast Council receives on average of 50 to 60 dog attacks a month, and every single one of those will be investigated. The investigations can range from warning notices, infringement notices for dogs that are not under effective control, and then dogs could be declared as regulated, dangerous or menacing depending on the infringement and what it is that they have actually done. And probably the saddest thing over there is that children under 5 are at the highest risk of injuries to the head and neck. And just yesterday in the United States, a 1-year toddler was mauled to death by 3 dogs in the babysitter's home. Apparently they were literally playing tug of war with the baby, and the 13-year-old babysitter was trying to save it. So these are the things we want to stop, we want to prevent, and we want to move away from. And how do we do that? By understanding what it is that our dogs are trying to tell us. Now, we have to remember that we as humans have a vast vocabulary. But even then, we still use words repeatedly in different ways. So here's a simple example. I threw the ball for my dog, I walked through the door, and I'm through with you. That's one word that I've used in 3 very different manners and different meanings. So think about our poor dogs who only have the sum of their body parts. 2 ears, 2 eyes, their 4 legs if they've got them, a tail if they've got that, and through that they have to communicate all of their feelings. Joy, anxiety, stress, anger, fear, and potentially even grief or aggression. So we need to understand how dogs work. Now, the biggest difference between us and dogs is that we have a very direct approach. Hi, good evening. My name's Kathryn. Nice to meet you. Good. We get up close and personal. We shake each other's hand. Now, if I'd had a prior relationship, I might even have put my arms around this gentleman and given him a hug. But I couldn't do that to a total stranger, could I? If I hugged any of you, you might be a little bit offended. But so many people feel that it's within their rights to walk up to a strange dog and get right down in its face to say hello to it. It's virtually the same as giving a stranger in the shopping centre a hug. So we want to try and avoid those. So we get up close and personal, we make eye contact, we talk to each other directly, which again in dog body language is something completely different. If you have a look Thankfully, we are not dogs. I prefer our kind of greeting. I'm much happier to shake hands and hug people. Glad we don't walk around sniffing butts. But for dogs, that's perfectly 100% normal. But the way they do it is very, very different. And for a well-socialized dog, they would generally have an indirect approach. Hi, and they come in and then they move away. And they'll look at each other and then they'll look away. And they might sniff on the ground a little bit and then they'll go back and say hello or sniff each other's butt and then move away. So it's respectful and yielding. They very rarely will touch each other on a first greeting if they're well socialized dogs. If they do, it might be a tiny little shoulder tap. Hey, I want to be your friend. Come and play with me. And that could be followed directly by a little play bow. Sorry, I do pretend to be a dog, not a very good one. So when it comes to dog body language, it becomes difficult to define what is normal. Again, because they reuse all of these body parts over and over. The context is always important. So having a look, let's hope this flasher thing, no, it's not working today, but having a look at my little photograph over there. 3 dogs on the beach, all right? That could end in a game, or that could quite very well easily end in a fight. Because if you have a look at the standoffish border collie, he's been quite dominant, and we'll talk more about this in greater detail further down the presentation. He's been quite dominant in this situation, in this scenario. And he's got his shoulder, he's standing up tall, his head is up, his ears are perked, his tail is raised and curled above the back, and he's got his paw on the back of the Dalmatian. Dally is saying, hi, I really don't want to get into trouble with you. I'm sorry for whatever I did. Everything the Dalmatian is saying is, I am no threat to you. He's giving off appeasement signals. He's curved his body. He's looking up underneath at that border collie and saying, please, let's not escalate. Let's end this where it is now. What the Spaniel's doing, he's just checking things out. He might end up splitting up that scenario and splitting up that argument. But what we need to remember with dog behavior is that it's a snapshot in a moment of time. That could very well turn into a fight in a matter of seconds. And dogs can react a lot faster than we can as humans. So probably the most important advice that I have ever been taught in the years that I've been working with dogs is to learn to listen with your eyes. If we watch our dogs and we understand our dogs, we will learn so much by keeping our eyes on them. So, what do dogs look like when they're happy and relaxed and approachable? As you can see, they're a beautiful picture of a nice golden. These ears are nice and relaxed, held in a normal position, mouth is slightly open, head held high, and he's standing with his weight evenly balanced across all 4 feet of his, and his tail is down and relaxed. Same too with that one, sorry if I'm in your way here. Same too with that one over there, doggy lying on the ground, clearly enjoying his chest rubs. Everything about that dog says, please don't stop patting me. This is the best day of my life. There's the play bow I was speaking about. It's really important to remember that when you watch dogs play bows happen in sequence and they happen very, very quickly. Dogs bound down and then they're up and they're moving. Down and they're up and they're moving. When a dog goes into that position and tends to stay there and becomes locked on and focused, that's when it generally turns into a prey bow, and that's when things can go wrong, because that dog is now eyeing something with a locked on gaze and potentially going to proceed in a predatory manner towards that animal. Fearful and worried, we can see again, if you look at the first 2 pictures of the positions of the ears, this little guy's ears are starting to flatten, they're going out sideways, almost like little helicopter ears. They're turning backwards, he's lowered his body, his tail is tucked, and he's raising his paw. A paw raise is generally an appeasement signal, and it's the dog saying, I'm a little bit stressed right now. I really don't want to have to hurt you, but I'd like you to listen and maybe just stop what it is that you're doing, or protect me from whatever it is that's coming towards me and making me feel uncomfortable. This is a pretty good picture because for once the roles are reversed. Most people always seem to think of the bully breeds as the ones that are causing all the trouble. But that bull, Staffy over there, he's doing everything in his power to, again, tell the snarky border collie, I'm terribly sorry for what I've done. I really didn't mean it, and I'd like whatever it is that I've done to offend you, thinking like a dog, to end right now. I don't want to take this any further. He's closed his eyes, he's pushed his ears back, his tail would be tucked probably between his legs, and the border collie might just end at that, because dogs will use the least amount of fight necessary to get their point across. So a raised lip, showing the teeth, and the dog could say, oh, okay, I won't do that again. And message has been delivered loud and clear. It's us as humans that take a little bit longer to get those messages through to ourselves. When we see a dominant and aggressive dog, you can see there his tail posture has completely changed. It's raised up high and it's stiff. His hackles have raised, not only at the back of his neck, but all the way down his back as well. The nose is wrinkled. It's called an agonistic pucker when we lift up our lips if we were dogs and we get our teeth out. So he's puckering beautifully, well, beautifully in a weird kind of way, showing his teeth, and the little dog is reacting to him in a similar vein. If whoever is here and watching this doesn't step in, that is a fight that is about to ensue. So when animals communicate with us, dogs are very tolerant to a point. So they will tolerate and tolerate until one day they don't. And that one day they don't is when things go horribly wrong and people get bitten. And then they have, I don't know why that happened. I've been patting my dog like that for 12 years and it's never bitten me before, because probably for 12 years it's been telling me that it didn't like it, but we weren't paying attention to that. So we will start with very subtle warnings or very subtle signs to say that I'm feeling uncomfortable, I'm not really enjoying this approach. And it could be as simple as yawning. My dog, if we go to the vet, he gets very stressed. I'll show you a picture of him in a second. It slinks in. And when we're sitting waiting, he yawns and he yawns. He's not tired, he's stressed, he's anxious because he knows what's coming. He's in the veterinary clinic, he can smell. There's that awful thermometer thing coming. They might start to turn their head away, turn their body away. If given the opportunity, they would probably walk away, might even slink down and start to do the whole creeping thing, crouching. And as you can see, our color's changing. We're moving from the green to the yellow, the orange. And then if still we don't pay attention to those signs that the dogs are giving us, that's when they have to escalate to a growl, getting their teeth out, a threatening posture, that stiff stance, eyes locked on, ears focused, everything stiff and ready to go. And then there might even be a warning snap. So, what creates a dog, an aggressive dog? It could be in the genes. I'll just read this over here. Recently, research was undertaken in the United States where 14,000 dogs of 101 different breeds were tested genetically for what they were passing on from litter, mother to litter, mother to litter, and what they were passing on. And 3 fundamental things were found to be passed from mother to litter: trainability, affinity with humans, and aggression. Now, we really want the trainability. We really want the human affinity because we want companions. We want dogs to be part of our lives, but we don't necessarily want the aggression. So it is in the genes of the majority of our dogs. And then we've also got to look at the breeds, which we'll talk more about in a bit. The breeds of the dogs that we have around us and the ones that we are breeding, and what those genetic propensities of those animals are. So when we look at the dog aggression motivators, if we start with maternal, just over there, first and foremost, from a maternal point of view, we are looking at dogs that are about to whelp, or about a mommy dog about to have a litter in uncertain circumstances. Now, obviously, from a sheltering perspective, this happens to us regularly. It's vitally important for people that choose to breed dogs or wish to breed dogs that the mother dog has a calm, safe, quiet environment for a minimum 2 weeks prior to her giving birth, ideally for the entire length of her pregnancy. Because any kind of stress in that pregnancy period, whilst the puppies are developing, is proven to pass down through mummy into the litter. So maternal aggression, if mummy is suffering, if mummy is stressed, mummy is anxious, that's exactly how her puppies are going to turn out as well. Yes, there are things we can do with those puppies to mitigate it to some degree, but it is in their gene makeup. When we look at predatory aggression, again, that comes down to the breeds of dogs that we have and types of breeds. Now, years and years, thousands of years ago, when we first started breeding dogs, we didn't have time to train dogs. So dogs were bred for very specific purposes. So you had your guardian breeds. Everybody left the homestead to go out into the fields to plow and field, whatever it was to do, gather food, provide for their families, and they had to leave their homestead guarded and protected by a dog. So those dogs were naturally suspicious of strangers, territorial, and they would guard and protect their property. We also have taken dogs in a predatory sequence. There's 7 distinct steps to predation. The first one being they will scan the environment, their eyes will lock on it, their ears will go forward, they'll focus their gaze. They will then chase their prey. There will be a grab bite, a hold, a kill bite, and then they start to dissect their prey. Now, through selective breeding, with example of herding breeds, we don't exactly want our sheepdogs running out there mauling our sheep. So they have stopped that predatory sequence. It still stalks, it still uses its eyes to control the movement, it still chases, but it doesn't bite and kill and dissect. So we've interrupted that sequence. We've done the same with our retrieving dogs. They will now still retrieve the animal, but they don't kill it because they bring it back to us if it's a well-trained and genetically well-bred retriever. So we've interrupted those genetic sequences to create dogs to do things for us. But it is still instinctively in their genes. So sometimes that predatory stuff just comes out from all those eons further back. Fear-based aggression is another big one. It generally happens with dogs that have missed out on critical socialization periods. So in those first early, critical socialization is kind of disputed anywhere from, some people will say from the day it's born till 21 weeks of age, others will say between 3 and 16 weeks of age. So round about those first 4 months of a doggy's life. If they are not exposed to well-planned, well-thought-out socialization strategies, and they're not given the benefit of being able to do things safely and comfortably, those dogs will start to learn fear. And if they are fearful at that stage, that becomes a learned behavior, and it's because it's in their critical period of development, it can't be undone. So we've really got to make sure, if we're raising puppies, that we do everything we can to ensure that they're having that good, solid foundation. That is why a guide dog, at the age of 16 weeks, a guide dog has met 200 different people, places, and things. That's why they can walk down the road and an ambulance can go past, and a guy can pop a wheelie on a motorbike and he'll just happily mosey along doing his job because they've had that extensive socialization. So fear-based aggression often stems from early ages and dogs that have lacked that socialization. When we look at learned behaviors, dogs use behavior as an experiment. Do this. Oh, that got me a pat. I'll do it again. Oh, that got me a treat. I'll do it again. That's how dogs learn, through patterns and repetition. That's why we can train them as well as we can. But dogs can also learn not so nice things. So an example of learned behavior is, think about a dog at home. The one person that will regularly visit your home on a daily basis, uninvited, is the postie. So the dog's inside, sees the postman, woof, woof, woof at the window, and the postman disappears. And the dog's like, wow, that was cool. A stranger came to the house, I barked, and the stranger left. And the next day, the same thing happens. That stranger arrives, pops something in the postbox, and the dog barks, and the stranger moves on. Wow, I'm so clever. My barking is what's keeping the stranger away from my house. And so they get this opportunity to practice this behavior. And every day it works. They're successful at it because the postie delivers and the postie leaves. But now we have the day where the postie has to come up and get a signature on a parcel. And so the dog sees this person opening the gate and walking up the drive, and they're like, whoa, we've got to escalate this a little bit. So they might bark a little bit deeper, they might start to growl. Postie gets to the door, rings the doorbell, and while she's waiting, or the person's waiting for you to open the door to sign, looks at the dog, hey, pretty dog. Dog sees, direct eye contact, that's a threat. I need to protect, puts out hand to pat the dog, hand gets bitten. Because the dog has learned. Through my previous experience, every time I barked, the postie left me. And now he's threatened even further to come on, had the audacity to come onto my property, so I need to escalate my behavior. Do you get the picture there? All right, hormonal. Again, hormones play a huge role in dogs, both males and female. And again, through some research that they've recently done, it's been found that entire dogs, both males and females, will react a lot quicker to stimulus for a lot longer and with a lot more intensity. as opposed to desexed animals, they tend to calm down. In fact, this research has shown that 62% of aggression is toned down in dogs that once they were neutered, if they were shown aggressive behaviours before, once they were neutered, 62% then toned that aggression down. So desexing dogs of both male and female is a very good idea. Obviously, we also don't always want to have them reproducing. Territorial kind of like goes in with that learned behaviour that I was explaining. We breed these dogs that were genetically produced to protect property, people, things, and then we have a party and invite 30 people into our home and can't understand why the dog's like, what's all these people doing here? Who's coming into my house? And they're not coping because they're not supposed to. They're guardians and protectors of their family and their domain, not 30 strangers coming into their house. Environmental factors that can lead to aggression is training. The types of training we do with our dogs, or the lack of training that we do with our dogs. Bite inhibition, which we'll talk more about, things that cause dogs to bite besides these ones. Bite inhibition training is something that puppies will be taught by their mother and by their siblings. That's why it's so important for litter mates to stay together for a good long period of time and also to stay with mommy. Because that's where the bite inhibition lessons are taught, as well as correct behaviour around other dogs and being a polite dog. It comes from those early stages there. So the type of training we would do with our dogs, or the lack of training, the method of restraint. People sometimes tend to, dog escapes the yard, can't afford to fix the fence, so we'll put the dog in a chain. A dog on a chain, or a dog tethered, a dog tied up outside of a shop while you go in to do your groceries, a dog tied up on the back of a ute while you go shopping. That restraint, people walking past, that frustration, I can't move, I can't go here, I can't go there, that can lead to aggression. And then again, God forbid, the person that approaches the dog that is restrained and he can't get away. Particularly little people coming up to say hello, with the way little kids tend to waddle around and walk. So the method of restraint can also play a huge role on aggression in dogs. Socialization, I did touch on that a little bit earlier. Those first critical periods of weeks, really, really important that puppies are exposed to things safely and nicely so that they can learn from it. And there's nothing, you really can't go wrong to, anybody in the audience have a pup? Anybody got puppies at home? Obedience school, obedience school, obedience school. Puppy school is not about teaching your dog to sit or to go to the toilet outside or to come when you call it. Yes, those are the added on benefits. Puppy school is about teaching your dog how to socialize safely and effectively with other dogs so that they can grow up to be well-adjusted adults. So socialization is important. Supervision, we can't knock that at all. If you have little people at home, every interaction with your dog should be supervised at all times. It's when we take our eye off the ball that things go wrong. Remembering dogs are not humans, they are animals, and they have this gene sequence within them that sometimes it just clicks back over to my pure instinctive animal I used to be 1,000 years ago. And then that's when problems happen. So supervision is vitally important. And neutering, I did touch on. Neutered dogs do have lower aggression rates with lesser intensity for shorter periods of time than the entire dogs. Diet plays a big one. Obviously, dogs that don't have access to regular food or good quality food, if you're hungry all the time, what's mine is mine and I'm not going to share it, because when I get it, I'm going to make sure that nobody else gets it or takes anything away from me. And that circles right back to that training one again. Training a dog by giving it something and taking it immediately away is not an effective way of training, because all you're creating is resource guarding, which comes down a little bit further in the presentation as well. So how do we respond to an aggressive display from a dog? Well, the first thing, we've got to be able to identify it. But then through selective breeding, we've also made that a little bit difficult. All right. So for the most dogs, they will raise their tail. So even the Doberman in the picture up there with his docked tail, you can see it's still tilting up. He's living his best life. He's about to go out and have a bite of the bite suit. His ears, before he opened his mouth, his ears would have been poked up and forward. His eyes would have been gazed on the decoy, the man in the bite suit. and he would have been completely, utterly, 100% focused on that decoy, and as he goes in for the bite, the ears go back, the mouth opens, and the teeth come out. There would be a low, deep bark and wagging tail. A dog wagging his tail is not always a happy dog or a safe dog. He might be enjoying himself doing what he's doing, but it doesn't mean he's a safe dog. But then when we look at some of the dogs that we've created through selective breeding, they don't have the ability to show those aggression signs. It doesn't mean they're not going to be aggressive, but they lack the ability to actually give us those physical displays of aggression. If you look at the little Frenchie, for example, she might be able to get one ear up if she's lucky. Not sure if we could find the teeth in the folds of her mouth, but I'm sure if she had to come out and bite, she'd still be able to do that. And obviously there's no tail for her to be able to posture with a tail at all, because they have that tiny little corkscrew. So through selective breeding, just because they can't show it, doesn't mean they're not feeling it. So we've got to take that into consideration too. Obviously for us as humans, if we're encountering aggressive dogs, if a dog displays aggression, don't approach. Even if you think he's just barked and growled, oh, it's safe now, I can go on. Don't, because he could come back for a second attempt. When it comes to small children, the best thing we can teach our kids is to stand still and be a tree. And I know it's really, really hard, because instinctively a dog coming up at you, an off-leash dog, an unaccounted for dog with no human in sight, is incredible, especially if it's coming forward with an aggressive display or too much interest. The worst thing a child could do, which instinctively they would want to do, is to turn around and run away. But when kids run, they scream, they flap their arms, they wobble about, and sometimes they fall over, making them immediately a prey item. Far better to teach them to be a little bit braver, stand still, fold their branches, look down to the ground so they're not creating conflict or confrontation by staring at the dog or making eye contact. Look down at the ground and stand still. You become less of a target because you're not moving. It's the movement that incites dogs. The predatory sequence starts with movement. So the calmer we are, the quieter we are, the stiller we stand, the more smaller we make ourselves, the safer we will be, because we're not that interesting any longer. And hopefully they won't treat us like a tree and cock their leg on us. All right, when we encounter dogs that we think might be a little bit iffy, and this could be really difficult for people that have to actually enter properties, to deliver parcels and get signatures and do whatever it is that their job entails. Entering a person's property when you're not sure where the dogs are there, it can be quite a daunting process. So always keep your movements fluid. We want to move confidently but calmly. We don't want to be flapping about, and we want to have that just a confident air about yourself, because if you're slinking and you're skulking, the dog's going to think that you're a slinker and a skulker, and you're something that needs to be checked out and guarded. Always know a dog's position. Don't turn your back on a dog. At worst, if you have to, turn your shoulder to protect this side of your body, but keep your head there so you're aware of where the dog is at all times. And we also don't want to be running. We want to, if we need to move away, we want to keep our movements fluid and move slowly. Never stare directly at the dog. Obviously, don't pat the dog, and don't get too close to it. The one down there, don't allow aggressive scent investigation. A lot of dogs do this, particularly when we go and visit new people or people that have a new dog, and the dog might get over-aroused and excited by the thought of people coming to visit, and they go and have a crotch sniff. That can lead to, if it's not stopped or curtailed, yes, it's uncomfortable, it's also quite embarrassing. Go away, stop that. It's not the nicest thing to have happen. But if you don't get the owner of the dog or stop your own dog from doing that, it can lead to over-arousal in the dog, and that's when they can start jumping up and mouthing. And mouthing, although not necessarily aggression, it can hurt and it can still cause damage. So try and prevent those behaviours from happening. Common mistakes we make: patting dogs in vehicles. Anybody ever done this? I have. I thought I was saving a dog. I nearly thought I was going to lose my fingers that day. We were in a small town, we were camping, you know what it's like and go camping. Does anybody ever remember to take everything with them? Not me. I'm the world's worst packer. Anyway, so we had to go drive into town to go and get something. Got to the supermarket, a little country town. It was a boiling hot day, 45 degrees or 35 degrees, whatever it was. and ran into the shopping centre, got what we want, and saw there was a dog where we parked, a little cattle dog thing in the back of the ute. The window was only about this wide open, and the dog was clearly in distress, heat stress. It was panting and frothing. So we went inside, radio, you know how you call for people, and we waited and waited and waited. Nobody came out. So I thought, okay, it's just a little dog. I'll be fine. I know dogs. I work with dogs for a living. And I walked up to the ute and I went to slide that. Went, wow, my God. Those teeth came out around that little bit of the corner, and I thought I was going to lose 3 of my fingers. I have never jumped. I actually thought I dented the car behind me. I jumped back so fast. So please don't pat dogs in vehicles. Wait for the police or the person to come and let them out. Approaching a leash dog. Kids do this all the time. A lot of people like to take their dogs with them. They stop for a coffee, or they tie the dog outside the shop and they go in to get their milk and their bread. That's cool. But teach your children to leave those dogs alone, or yourselves, because approaching a leash dog, you're taking the choices away. The dog has no choice. If he doesn't want you near him, he can't get away from you because he's tied or tethered to whatever it is he's tied to. So never ever pat a leash dog. Again, people having to enter other people's properties for their jobs, don't underestimate the number of dogs. There was that fatality in Logan last year. I think it was a meter reader, went onto a property, saw 1 dog, and then all of a sudden there were 3 dogs, and things went horribly wrong for him. Again, chained dogs, restrained dogs, remembering that frustration, they can't get where they want to go, but maybe the chain or the rope or whatever there's on is old and frayed and falls apart, and then you're in the line of fire. Again, this is another big one. Overconfidence around a familiar breed. Oh, I've had border collies all my life. I'm going to love every border collie I see, but not every border collie might want to love me. Okay, so I've got a chihuahua, and I can pick up my chihuahua, and I can dress my chihuahua, and I can put my chihuahua in a handbag. But it doesn't mean when you meet someone else's chihuahua that you can do the same thing. The most important thing to remember is all dogs can bite, irrespective of their size. They can all bite. Acting aggressively, by the same token, acting submissively. So if we're too big and bolshy and, oh, come over here, stop that, I'm the boss of you, all of that behaviour can get a dog to react negatively to us. And by the same token, if we're a little bit too soft, we've always got to find that calmness, that medium of confidence within ourselves. Wearing large and dark hats, as well as sunglasses, and I know they do sell them online, Amazon and all, Temu and all those places. You can buy those repellents for dogs if you've not a great idea, because they use a high frequency, and we're not quite certain if that high frequency doesn't sometimes set the dog off even further, because they're not sure of where that sound's coming from. That sound is really, really loud, it's really, really high pitched, and it can actually turn that switch in their brain that much quicker. When it comes to resource guarding, this often happens with young pups trying to navigate their way in the world, but it is also generally when a dog has a fixation on food. Maybe they haven't had enough food in their previous life. Maybe they had to fight for the food that they got. Street dogs from third world countries and places like that, maybe even in the outback where things are a little bit tougher for dogs. And so I've had to fight for the resources, and I'm not going to share the resources I have. But dogs can also start to guard not only food, but they can guard things, toys, and humans. Anybody's dog guarded by their dog? Yeah. And sometimes with little dogs, we think it's quite cute. We sit on the couch and the dog goes, ah, and everyone goes, oh, he's so sweet. And the dog, you sit down on the couch and the dog goes, ah. And then you try and get close and then the teeth come out. We think it's cute because it's a little dog and we're not really going to get hurt. But it's still a dog, and they still have the potential to bite. We need to then teach that dog that actually this is my couch, and I'll invite you on it when I feel like it. So off you go on the floor, little boy, live down there for a little bit, and when I feel like it, I'll say, hey buddy, come up and come and join me. And then we can change the behaviour patterns by letting the dog know that, hey, actually, I'm the owner of the couch, not pint-sized little you. So resource guarding can be dogs. They want to assert their ownership, and if you have a multi-dog household, that can sometimes happen between 2 dogs in the family as well. One wants what the other's got, and so if you're going to have multi-dog households, you need to always supervise and make sure you've got enough resources for all of them. What causes resource guarding? Generally, it's anxiety-based, so teaching the dog to be a little bit more confident. There's lots of confidence-building exercises. If you have a dog that's anxious, There's lots of training information out there. Susan Garrett's a really great resource to utilise, Shaped by the Dog. She's got the most amazing videos and podcasts and free downloads and games that you can play with your dogs to build confidence, because anxious dogs tend to be the dogs that are a little bit harder to handle and will resource guard, but they might also show aggression behaviours as well out of anxiety. Again, training can also be to blame, particularly when it comes to food. You see videos, or I've heard of people where the little kitty goes in the house, puts the food bowl down, dog goes to eat, and then we drag the food bowl away. The dog follows the food bowl. And we think that's hilariously funny because, oh, look, the dog's following for the food. But no, all you're doing is teaching the dog that, hey, when the food's there, A, you've got to eat it really, really quickly, otherwise someone's going to take it away, or B, you've got to protect your food. All right. So the way we train our dogs can be to blame. And as I said, sometimes puppies can start to show a little bit of resource guarding, and that might be because they came from a really large litter, and maybe they were just scatter-fed, and so they had to kind of like tussle each other to get enough food. The most important thing to remember, I'll get there in a sec, sorry. Because it can escalate to aggressive behaviour, including air snaps or bites, we need to know the signs of a dog that's looking like it's about to guard a resource. And the first thing you'll notice is the body stomps. We get stiff and we lean forward. We also lock our ears and our eyes in one direction on the thing that we want him to guard. Now, it could be my food bowl right here. And I'm going to look at you, and I'm going to look at my food bowl, and look at you, and I'm going to look at my food bowl. And I'm going to dare you to come any closer. And if you do, my posturing is going to intensify. I might lean even more forward, and then I might start growling and getting my teeth out. So you will see the posture of the dog start to change when they're guarding. Lip licking, sudden and obvious stiffness, hyperfixation, and increased attentiveness to what else is happening in the home. Who's coming near? That's mine. And remember, mine doesn't have to be a food bowl. It could also be another member of the family that I don't want to share. They're mine, okay, which is not a great thing to have. In general, look for signs, and we need to manage the situation. So the way we can manage it is providing sufficient and equitable resources. 2 dogs, 2 beds, 2 food bowls, 2 water bowls, maybe more. Also, if your dog is protective over toys, don't leave toys lying around. If your dog doesn't like to share his food, feed your dogs separately. I have 3 dogs in my home. My grandson of 3 feeds my dogs with me every night, and we have it down pat. And I have never, in the 12 years I've had my older boy, ever left him to eat his food unsupervised. I might step away, and this is what my little grandson Owen does. I dish up the food, calls the dog, Clooney, sit, puts the bowl down. Next Matt's over here, Beanie, sit, puts the bowl down. Fernie, sit, puts the bowl down. And then he says to me, and now we walk away. And that's what we do. We walk away, and I stand and have my cup of tea, we have a Charlie chit-chat, and we watch our dogs eat. I don't have food aggression problems in my home. I never have. But I still don't leave my dogs unsupervised when it comes to feeding times, because that is a high-value scenario for a lot of dogs. Some dogs only get fed once a day, so you can be damn sure that when that bowl of food comes out, they're not willing to share it. So making sure that we supervise that and we have equitable resources. If you do have a dog that's a little bit tetchy around food, we can start to teach them that whilst we don't have to be there patting them and loving them while they're eating, we could potentially maybe stand over here. And the way to do that is have their kibble or whatever their food is in their bowl, and I've got some yummy chicken over here. And I know you don't like me anywhere near you, but I'm going to stand over here and I'm going to toss some chicken in your bowl. And every now and again you get a mouth of biscuits, and then you get a piece of chicken, and you're like, oh wow, this chicken's coming from heaven. Maybe this person over here is not so bad. And maybe in a day or 2 or 3 or 4, who knows, I can step a little bit closer and I'm still tossing chicken in. So I'm teaching my dog that the proximity of me to his food bowl is not a threat. It's actually quite a pleasant experience because I'm adding value to it. Makes sense? So we can teach them that having us near them is not such a bad thing. We can also, if you have a puppy, and we all know puppies are naughty, they chew everything. All right. The worst thing we can do, puppy's got your shoe, is run after him and steal the shoe back. Because then he's going to think next time, I'm going to hide that better. Or I'm going to chew it quicker. Or I'm going to bury it before you find me. Or when you go and take it, he's going to say, this is mine. And he's going to hold on to it, and then you're going to have tug of war with your shoe. Always have something of higher value that you can trade him up with. And a piece of kibble isn't going to cut it. Okay. Chicken, steak, maybe some mince, dried liver, maybe, depending what your dog's palate is like, and we should all have an idea of what it is that turns our dogs on when it comes to food. For mine in series training is salmon. Oh, God, love salmon. We'll do anything for salmon. And chicken's a firm second favourite. And so if the dog's got something you don't want them to have, hey buddy, can I have the shoe back? Here's a piece of chicken. And we trade them up so that we can take away what they don't want. Obviously, if you are struggling, please look for a qualified dog trainer. Now, I do stress qualified because sadly the dog training industry is still an unregulated industry. And so literally anybody can put up their hand and say, I'm a dog trainer. Make sure if you're going to employ a dog trainer that you look for reviews and testimonials and whatever it takes to find somebody that actually knows what they're doing and can work with the dog safely. Very important to teach your dogs give, leave it. Very important cues. Comes down to basic obedience. Please, not necessarily please, give here, not give and take. I replace what I'm taking with something of higher value. So rewarding them for that, and again, try and make dinner time a pleasant experience, and like I said, always trade up. If you have a multi-dog household and they fight over toys, take the toys away. If they fight over a particular bed, take that bed away and get another one. That's of not much value. And also, if you do go to a dog park or an off-leash at beach and your dog is ball mad, please don't take a ball with you. Because all you're going to create is a dog fight when 25 other dogs chase your dog's ball and he's like, this is my ball. So I have my dog's ball mad. We play in a park with a chucket, but only when we're there on our own. Because I know if any other dog goes near his ball, he's not going to be very happy about that. When I go to the beach, I've got a special floaty thing that we chuck in the water and he will swim fish. And because it doesn't go as far as a ball, not many dogs are interested in it. So we can play safely with his chuck it floaty thing at the beach, and in a park, when we're on our own, we can play chuck it with his ball, and he can run and catch his ball as much as he likes without any interference from other dogs. And I don't have to worry that we're going to end up in a dog fight. Always reward good behaviour, never punish your dog for bad behaviour. All right? I know it's a difficult one. Most of us tend to, stop that, don't do that, what you doing, shut up, stop barking. Rather try and think of the good things your dog's doing and reward them for the good stuff. Reward the good behaviour, and the good behaviour will happen more regularly as opposed to always punishing the bad stuff. Stay vigilant in other places. Like I said, don't take toys to the dog park. Do lots of things to build your dog's confidence. Simple things by feeding your dog in a box, where they have to put their head in a box. That can change a dog's demeanour unbelievably and build so much confidence in them, because the thought of putting my head in a box is quite scary. And if I can eat my dinner out of a box, well, wow, the world's not so scary after all, because I can do it's a simple thing. It sounds weird, but box feeding really does help with anxiety and resource guarding issues. Expose them to new situations, peoples and other animals safely. Make sure it's in a controlled environment. If you've got a puppy, find a friend that's got an adult dog that you know is well social, and allow them to interact with that dog before you expose them to all the weird and wonderful dogs out in the dog park or the wide world. And be especially alert in new situations that can bring out your resource guarding tendencies. Now, if we have a multi-dog household and dogs are having a fight, we all want to save the dogs. Ideally, we shouldn't get in between a dog fight because we're going to run the risk of getting injured. Okay, but I know when it's our dogs, we want to do whatever we need to do to protect our dogs. So I'll go through something about what we can do to protect our dogs in a bit. But try not to get between two dogs fighting. Try rather create a distraction. Pick up something, bang something, 2 metal bowls, kick the fence, make a loud noise. Anything that you can to distract the dogs. Obviously, if the owner's around, shout for them. They might have a better idea of controlling their dog. Some people using water can sometimes work, but you sometimes get dogs that love water. Okay, and then out you come with a hose, and somebody else is going to come, oh, that's fun. I'm going to have a game with a hose, and you might get bitten while they're grabbing the hose. So just be mindful of that. Now, the sticky stuff when we get to kids and dogs. Anybody seen pictures like that look familiar? It's quite horrific what people will expose their children to with dogs. I mean, if you look at that little guy at the top there He's really not enjoying all those pats. And I'm going to go through in the next couple of slides. We're going to look at what it is that causes dogs to stress, what are the signs that they're showing us that they stress, as well as the anxiety signals. But those are some of the pictures that are out and about on the internet, and people have taken, those are photographs. So those things have happened. And it's pretty scary to think that children actually, people are photographing them doing those things to animals. So when dogs stress, the signs of stress is their mouth starts to tense, the whites of their eyes will start to show, or the sclera, lip licking, yawning, excessive panting. If you have a look at the little girl hugging that dog over there, she's kind of doing it almost okay because she's behind the dog with her arms around it. But the dog's not happy. He's not enjoying that at all. His ears are down, he's got half moon eyes, you can see the whites, and his head is turned to avoid eye contact because he's not enjoying that interaction. Now, I do have a video here. Again, this was filmed by, I presume, Mummy. So just watch the dog. Now, see the difference in behaviour as soon as she moves away? That almost instantaneous relief of the dog, that's over. And the sound's not great, but she says, I'm never going to stop loving you and giving you kisses. Now, like I said, all the way through, dogs will tolerate and tolerate and tolerate until one day they don't. And that's going to be the perfect scenario, because that mother is going to say, I don't know how that happened. This is how we hug our dog all the time. But the dog is trying to say in no uncertain terms. It's even got its teeth out in the video that I'm really not enjoying this interaction. Please stop it. And you can see when the little girl goes away, the dog actually looks to the person holding the camera. It's actually looking at the person holding the camera for help. Please take this person away from me. So what causes our dogs to stress? Direct threats from us as humans or other animals, so violence, anger, or aggression. Too much training, the demands in training, the type of training we do with our dogs can sometimes tip them over the edge and cause them to be stressed. Scary situations, noise. My dog at 12 has suddenly developed the fear of the wind, okay? Maybe it's because we lived through the Christmas storms up on Tambourine Mountain. We had that hurricane go through. Maybe that's what triggered it, but the wind blows and his world is ending. He is petrified of the wind. Some dogs, and again, this is another thing, we've created these little companion dogs who all they want to do is be with us. And we buy them and we raise them, and then we leave them at home alone for 10 hours of the day while we go to work. And so then they don't know how to cope with being alone. And we've also seen this from a sheltering perspective with more and more dogs that were bought during COVID that had their families with them for 2 full years of their life. They never went anywhere. Everyone was at home. Everyone did everything together. Now all of a sudden the world's gone back to normal and people go to work and the dog's like, why am I here? Where's my family gone? And they can't cope with being alone, so they get stressed. Sudden changes or awareness of change, people often report when they get pregnant that their dog starts to interact a little bit differently to them, or people coming into a home, people leaving a home if there's a change in familial circumstances, that can cause dogs to stress. Again, overexcited playing, kids in the backyard. This is where we get the cattle dogs and the kelpies rounding the kids up, nipping the kids. We get so excited with our running and playing and chasey games, and the dogs get over-aroused and start to nip as well. Also, not teaching dogs how to relax. It's really important that we teach them how to have an off button. When they're lying on the floor in front of you watching TV, that's the behavior. Good dog, well done. Please keep doing that. That's the behavior we want to reinforce. Hunger and thirst, temperature, and pain and illness. Now, I've got another little video here of a dog, a little bit of a backstory. This dog was rescued in America. He was found on the side of a river, clambering out of a frozen river, half frozen, half wet, half drowned, and 2 policemen kind of climbed down the banks of the river, rescued the dog. Obviously took him to the local pound shelter. He didn't have a microchip, and it became like a good feel-good story because these policemen had put themselves at risk to save this dog from imminent death in a frozen river. And it became a little bit of a local celebrity, and I think they were trying to find his owner. Again, the sound quality is not so great. So this dog ends up on TV Now, if we think about what's happened to the dog, so he's a stray, we don't know his prior history, he's had a frightening experience, a near-death experience, and now he's on a TV set. Anybody here been on a TV set? It's not pleasant. It's loud, it's noisy, it's hot, you've got these funny microphone things flying around all over. And this is what this dog is subjected to. And then look at the signals he's giving off. So they're restraining him by holding him on the collar. He's got no choices to make. His ears being severely massaged. He's lip licking. He can't move. He can make no choices to get away. He's trying to move his head away from her offensive hand, and then she comes in for the kiss. Okay. That's how quickly it can happen. And it's horrific when it does. Sadly for that lady, she was off work for about 3 months. She realized the error of her ways. The dog was not euthanized, and she had to have extensive plastic surgery to fix her lip and her nostril. Again, anxiety, if we remember that ladder I showed you right in the beginning, we're using our same body parts, but we're just expanding them a little bit more. So we might lick our lips a little bit more excessively, we might pant a bit more, we start to put our ears back and turn away and crouch, like you can see the little Daxi puppy over there. How do dogs deal with stress? Much like we do. We've got 6 options. Me, anybody takes me on, wants to threaten me, I'm out of here. Sorry, you can fight amongst yourselves. I will avoid confrontation at all costs. So for my choice of dealing with stress or anxiety or anything of those, I'm going to run away from it if I can. So it's the best way to reduce conflict is simply remove yourself away from it. And some dogs will do that. You see them in the dog park. Somebody comes up and is a bit too bolshy, and the dog's like, this is very interesting over here. I'm just going to go over here. You can stay over there. And they just remove themselves from the situation. When it comes to fight, most healthy animals will use the least amount of fight necessary. Again, my dog, the old boy, he doesn't like puppies much. He's been exposed to them all of his life at the shelter, but he's getting cranky and old, and he's entitled to. So when a puppy comes in, puppies are rude, and they put their nose in his mouth and his nose, and he just turns around and goes, "Hi." There's no contact, there's no growling, it's just an air snap, and the puppies immediately, oh, sorry, bud, won't do that again. They learn so quickly, but us as humans, we are the ones that take so much longer. So fight, flight, freeze. Again, we see this a lot in shelters when the brain and body are in conflict. The dog's not sure what to do. Do I go forward? Do I stay still? Do I bite? Don't I? So we just freeze for the moment until our brain can process what's happening to us. And most dogs will tend to use more of the flirt or appeasement signals. You can see the little puppy licking in the mouth of the older dog there. I'm nice, please don't hurt me, everything's okay. They can also fidget, and then sometimes we get to the fantasy stage, which is where they literally just shut down. Now, dominance. This is a big subject. I'm going to try and keep it to one slide and as brief as I can. Dogs do not have dominant personalities. They have dominant interactions and scenarios with other dogs and can or with other people. If a dog's dominant here in this situation doesn't mean he's going to react the same way in the next situation with a different dog or a different person. It's much like us. We have personality changes, we have mood swings, we have mood changes. Dogs' dominance comes and goes. It's fluctuant. They can have the interactions, but if you behave in a dominant manner with your dog, you give your dog mixed signals. So I've used this as an example. I'm going to pick on you if that's okay, lovely. So you haven't had lunch today. You're hungry. You've just gone into Hungry Jack's. Guzman Gomez, what's your takeaway choice? Nobody? Guzman Gomez. And you got yourself a lovely big burrito, and I come walking past and I take your burrito away from you. How would you feel? Probably a little bit angry. You might get cranky with me. You might follow me and say, hey, that's mine, and try and take it back. Okay. By the same token, if I came and just sat on you right now, you'd be a little bit offended. And if you were to report me to the police, you'd probably report me for, say if I pulled you off a chair and put you on the ground. I made you lie down over there, physically. I'd be assaulting you, wouldn't I? But if you stayed here, and you didn't do anything until after the presentation, but every time I walked in your direction, you'd probably go, oh God, here she comes again. So when we behave like that with dominance with our dogs, like doing an alpha role, which is an old school way of teaching your dog to submit to you as the human, you're giving your dog mixed messages. and your dog is never going to feel comfortable around you because they never know how you're going to react. And that's not the relationship we want to have with our dogs. We want to have a symbiotic, loving, confident relationship. We want to give and take. We've got to respect each other. And when you treat animals like that, you're not respecting them. And by the same token, they're probably not going to end up respecting you. And then we end up with bites happening again in the home. So dominance can give your dog mixed messages and increase fear and excitability. Again, looking at that picture, kitties always at fault with this. Wide-eyed stare, ears pulled back, furrowed brow, closed jaw, stiffened posture, and all the little girl's doing is saying hello. Dog's not enjoying the interaction at all. 2 more quick little videos. This is another American one, but it makes really good sense.
Crazy about dogs. Every night I dreamed I would have my very own. And then one day, he came. And I loved him. We were partners. We did everything together. I helped make his dinner. I always gave him his favorite treats. And I even taught him how to sit. And wow, the adventures we had. We were doctors, sailors, cowboys, and princesses. We had the most awesome times. Best friends forever. He was always there for me, and I loved him so much. I don't know what happened. Everything I knew had changed, and I was part of a whole new family now. But boy, she was fun, and I knew she loved me, so I let her hug me, lay on me, and pick me up, even though I really didn't like it. I did my best to be good, even when she put her hands in my food, and teased me with my bone, or made me do things I didn't want to. That swing was scary, so I held on tight. I tried to say I didn't want to be a patient, or the sailor, or the horse. I even asked the grown-ups for help, but nothing. I was saying it as loud as I could, but it was like no one could hear me. I kept telling her with my eyes, my face, my whole body. But she wasn't listening. I didn't mean to hurt her. I just wanted to make it stop. And then it happened. And we never saw each other again.
77% of dog bites come from the family dog or a friend's dog. It's not for lack of love, it's for lack of understanding. And children are the most at risk.
Pretty scary statistic, and sadly it rings true for Australia as well. Moving on. So, warning signals. They will give us warning signals. A dog will growl. Please don't tell him to stop, knock it off, slap him on the head when he does that, because then he's just going to become a silent assassin. Growling is a serious sign to cease and desist of whatever you're doing, step away and move away from the dog. So it's a warning, it's a threat, it can often accompany guarding a resource, and if they don't warn, they're going to bite. So we need to be able to pay attention to those warnings. Now this is where children get into trouble, because many over-friendly dogs will rush up to another dog and muzzle punch them. And what the dog does, or even the mother dog with litter mates, she does what they call a muzzle pin. She puts her mouth around them, their nose or mouth, and holds it closed. It doesn't really hurt them. There's a little bit of spit and maybe a little bit of a growling. And so they get decked, they get held and pinned into position. So when a child does that, the dog responds in the same way. But unfortunately for us, we're not dogs, and our children, our skin is a lot softer and everything goes wrong, and that's when children get bitten in the face. And the most of dog bites, like we said right from the get-go, for children happen to the face and the neck because of the height that they're at, but also because of the proximity they put their face into the dog's face. So dogs will use calming signals as well. They'll use it with us, and they'll also use it with other dogs to deflect the situation, to tone it down, to calm it down. So they use it to avoid conflict, invite play, avoid threats, and they use it towards us and other dogs. Some dogs will smile at you, right? But there's a noticeable difference between a smiling dog and a snarling, growling dog that's about to bite. Everything, if you look at the border collie over there, everything about him looks so nice and soft and relaxed. He's engaging, and then obviously the guy with his little teeth out there as well. So when it comes to playing, what is appropriate play? Well, it should look like fun. And often we don't see this in dog parks. When you go and watch dogs in a dog park, there's a lot of dogs that are not having fun in that park. Being chased around by 3 other dogs until I hide under the tree, or I retreat under my mom's legs, or fold myself under the branch, the dog's not having fun. So the game that the dogs are playing should look like fun. There should be give and take between the dogs. I chase you, you chase me. If I can tap you on the shoulder with my forepaw, you can tap me on the shoulder. If I roll you onto the ground, you should be able to roll me onto the ground. So the game should look like fun. It should be mirroring body language, and most dogs will only play quite intensely for a couple of seconds, a minute at most, and then they'll have a natural play break. You'll see them have a little shake off, and then, oh, that's nice over here. And then they might go and play again, or until they have another shake off and another play break. So it should look like fun. Not appropriate play. Bad teeth, ears forward. You can clearly see that dog going with the Aussie Shepherd there. That's not fun. All right, Aussie Shepherd's about to get nailed. He's not having a good time. So there's no loose and wiggliness. Some of the dogs will run away. They're trying to escape. They're trying to avoid. They go back to their parents or their owners, and they're looking to their humans to help them, to remove them from that situation. If you're not sure whether both dogs are having fun, just stop the game, interrupt it. Hold one dog for a little bit, and then let them go. Count to 5, and let them go and see if they go and engage with that dog again, particularly if you're in a group of dogs playing. So, some of the main messages. If you see an aggressive dog, stand still. Don't run, don't scream, don't wave your arms. Stand still. If you have something to hand and you're confronted by an off-leash dog, you can use it as a shield, not a weapon, okay? Because if you whack the dog with it, say you've got an umbrella, if you whack the dog with the umbrella, you're going to incite that aggression, but you can open the umbrella and use it to protect yourself whilst you're moving away from the dog, protecting your body parts so the dog's not getting at you. So use whatever you have at hand as a shield, not weapon. We can also train our dogs not to bite right from the get-go. Okay. If we do this right from the early stages, if we're lucky enough to raise a puppy from puppyhood, but even if you bring a rescue dog into your home, you can still train a dog. There's no age limit when it comes to training. So early socialization is really important. Structured, well-organized obedience training can teach your dog how to interact with other dogs in a safe environment. Bite inhibition training teaches dogs to control the use of their mouths and the use of their teeth. Again, particularly with puppies. Puppies like to meow. They've got those horrible needle little teeth. When your dog bites you, ow, ow, take your arm away, game ends. Have an appropriate toy, re-engage. Let the dog play with the appropriate toy, the chew toy, not your arm. They make contact with the skin, ow, ow, stop, move, end of game, and then reignite the game a little bit later with the appropriate toy. So we can teach bite inhibition training. Professional training dog classes also give you structured guidance, and patience, consistency, and positive reinforcement are key in trying to get those training methods across. We should also be teaching our dogs sit, stay, leave it, and most importantly, if we're going to take our dogs to an off-leash area, come. If your dog cannot effectively return to you 100% of the time when you call them, they should not be allowed off-leash. I have 2 dogs, well 3, 2 that go out and about with me. One, perfect. If I yell stop, he'll stop right there and won't move a muscle. The other one, if there's a bird, a flea, a fly, a leaf, oh, that's so exciting. And she's off. So she gets no off-leash freedom whatsoever. But he can get a lot more because he at least listens. So how do we keep our dogs safe? First and foremost, make sure when you're walking your dogs that you're walking them on a leash. They need to be, that's how we can protect them. We need to keep them on a leash. And be mindful that the person holding the leash can effectively control the dog. All right? Little people should not be walking dogs. Okay? They need to be able to effectively control the dog. And then for us, those of us with dogs at home, is your yard suitable? Is your yard safe? Can your dog stay in your yard without escaping all of the time and causing a menace to the people around? And most importantly, again, we want to be making sure, are we supervising our children when they're interacting with our dogs? So, before we approach an aggressive dog, no. We don't approach aggressive dogs. That was my trick question for the night. If a display of aggression does not subside, slowly back away. Here's some other notes I got here today. Never run away from the dog. Don't make eye contact, but remain wary of where the dog is, because eye contact can be perceived as a challenge or a threat. Do not turn your back on the dog. Remain standing upright and remain calm as best you can. Now, we've all been said that if you're approached by off-leash dogs and you have a little dog, the worst thing you can do is pick up your dog because your dog becomes a prey item. But I know for me, owning a Chihuahua, if an off-leash dog came, I would be picking up my Chihuahua. But the way you do it can have a direct impact on your safety and your dog's safety. So if you were in that scenario and you rushed up by an off-leash dog and you want to pick up your little dog, there are risks, obviously, personal to yourself and your dog. Ideally, scoop the dog up slowly. Make sure once you've got it in your grip, you've got the tail, the feet, everything enclosed, and turn somewhat sideways so you can still see the dog, but you've taken that prey item away. Yes, there are risks. The oncoming dog might still jump up at you and try and get your dog, but you potentially could save your little dog's life. Again, a bigger dog, you walking a dog, you're approached by an off-leash dog, teach your dog middle position. Middle, sitting here in between my legs, I can close my legs around my dog, I can use my body, I can use my arms, or simply put your dog behind you, big jump stance, yell, scream, shout, and try and keep your dog behind you, dropping the lead if necessary so that hopefully your dog will choose flight and not fight. So your dog can get away and you can fend the other dog off. But again, that does pose risks to all of us as humans, depending on the nature of the dog coming towards us. Most dogs coming towards us, most dogs have an affinity to be with humans and want to be with humans, so they might be a little bit growly on approach, but hopefully, theoretically, they're not always going to be bitey, snappy, snarly, wanting to eat us. If an incident does occur, what you should do, stay calm, confine the dog, move the victim, wash and cover wounds, apply pressure, keep elevated, and obviously get medical advice as soon as you possibly can. All right, quick quiz. I think I've only got 4. What do you see over there? Good, bad, ugly? Yay, nay? Just a shake of the head? Yay, nay? Good? Tell you what I see. 2 dogs interacting in a fairly interesting manner. Sorry, you can see past me? Cool. So the dog behind is having a sniff at the German Shepherd. German Shepherd's allowing it. He's not taken aback by it. He's not in any way showing any sign of discomfort. He's sniffing on the ground, and it's like 2 dogs, well-socialized dogs, meeting each other. It's a little bit different, isn't it? All right. That's going to end badly, and the handlers, people on the end of the leash, could be the result of the ensuing dog fight, if there is one. Because if you were to yank that dog away, come here, with a quick yank, you're going to incite that aggressive burst. It's a tricky situation to be in, but those dogs are clearly sizing each other up and are ready for an event to happen between them. But we can kind of dispel that by gently, loose leash pressure as much as we can. Hey buddy, come over here. Come, and moving your dog away without yanking on the leash, and hopefully you can diffuse the situation over there. Happy dog at the vet? No, that's probably my dog at the vet. Doesn't like them at all. Doesn't like them at all. But he's not a bite threat. All right, he's got his head down. He's showing all of his submissive posturing. I'm not going to bite you. I'm not enjoying what you're doing to me, but I'm going to tolerate it because I know it has to be done. Here again, she's not in a very comfortable situation. She's a little bit scared or worried, but she's lying down because she's trying to tell that dog to leave her alone. She wants to be left alone, but she can still spring up and defend herself if that other dog doesn't listen to what she's asking. Right, this is a little bit graphic. Ready? Three little puppies. All right, when we go to the Gold Coast, we all live on the Gold Coast, when we go to the off-leash area, person physically controlling the leash, or the person holding the leash must be physically able to control the dog. Dogs must be on leash before entering the park and on exiting the park. They must have their registration tag on. Please, when you walk into a dog park, check it out first. Have a look at the dogs, the demeanour of the dogs, what's happening in the park before you make the decision to go in or not. In the dog park or an off-leash area, 17 and older to be in charge of the dog. Nobody younger than that, so don't send the 10-year-old off to the dog park for the day. It's not right. Always be considerate of others. Don't allow your dog to bark and be a menace. Obviously, your dog must wear his collar with his registration tag. Don't allow them to chase or harm wildlife. I have a wonderful example about this one. One of my colleagues had, or has, 2 big Irish wolfhounds, and she was walking them in the dog park on a leash because there were some iffy dogs in the park, walking the perimeter of the park, and the biggest wolfhound saw a wallaby and decided to take off. And so she was not letting go, and poor lady is now quite seriously injured, but she did not let her dogs go. To her testament, they did not get to that wallaby, and she's bearing the brunt of it with quite some severe injuries, but she did not let go, and no wildlife was harmed. So just be mindful, it is an offence for your dog to harm wildlife. Obviously, if your dogs do doo-doos, we have to pick them up. Any dog attacks are reported, whether in an should be reported, and council will investigate every single one of them, and obviously penalties do apply, and the penalties can be anything from a infringement notice to actually having dogs declared as menacing and or dangerous. The council is also holding some pet information evenings over the next coming weeks at those locations. I think there's some leaflets out there as well, a little bit more on body language and also on training our dogs to respect and protect our wildlife as well. So pretty cool places to go there also. I love that quote. Always be kind to animals, morning, noon and night. For animals have feelings too, and furthermore, they bite. All right, thank you so much for spending your evening with me. I really appreciate it. I hope you found something of value and maybe learned something. It would be lovely if you could leave the feedback forms for us, please. Feel free to leave them on your chair or just hand them in at the back over there. Thanks again. Enjoy your dogs and good luck.